That's our focus this morning on ENCA, the state of infrastructure in schools. And it is one of the most stressful times of one's school career when you look at the matric examinations. And some members of the class of 2023 will be writing their finals without the proper infrastructure. But it's not just them, we know. Traditionally, even those in years bygone have had to endure the very same conditions. Mud classes, pit latrines, as well as overcrowding continue to burden pupils in all grades. Now, Equal Education has been fighting this problem for many years now. Joining us to discuss this is the organization's Kimberley Khumalo. A very good morning to you, Ms. Khumalo. Great to have you on the SA Morning today. Talk to us about the impact that inadequate and below par infrastructure has on learners, as well as their output, the quality of the work that they're able to produce.
Thank you for having me, and good morning to the viewers. As Equal Education, our equalizers often give us feedback this time of year as matric season draws to a close. So bad infrastructure in schools, such as having schools with only plain latrines, having schools with unreliable water supply, and having schools with unreliable electricity supply, makes it so difficult for learners to continue on learning and giving their best in their school performance. This is because a significant amount of time is spent standing in lines in bathrooms that are not enough and adequate for learners. There's also some issues that girl learners face, in particular when they have to manage their menstrual cycle using plain pit toilets. So we've seen a lot of terrible impacts that these type of infrastructure has on learners. And when we speak about overcrowding in particular, learners are unable to engage with their teachers. Teachers are able to identify learners that are having a bit more trouble with school. So infrastructure has a huge impact on the learning process and the teaching and learning process as well. Teachers part-time are being able to engage in their classrooms if it's 60, 70 learners in a class, you can imagine. And on top of that, some of the things that government provided, such as temporary mobile facilities as classrooms, are also not assisting. Because learners tend to be very hot in those classrooms when it's hot and very cold when it's cold. So they are unable to concentrate in such classrooms. So infrastructure has a huge impact on how learners are able to learn. And still the expectation is that, especially during matric seasons, learners are supposed to come out of these institutions and have the same or even better results as other learners that have all the resources.
The common knowledge, or at least the common assumption, is that schools in rural areas are actually in a much worse condition than those in urban areas. From the research that you've done as Equal Education, how does this fare, as in urban schools versus rural schools, and the development that has taken place in both of these sectors of education structure?
So the norms and standards had a couple of deadlines, not the amended ones. So the 2016 and 2020 deadlines were supposed to deal with the very basics of what makes a school, right? So things like toilet, sanitation, electricity, water. So what we are seeing in rural provinces is that the backlog of these three very, very basic forms of infrastructure are lacking quite a bit. A lot of schools, especially in provinces like Limpopo and KZN, struggle with plain pit toilets still to this very day. Although there is a court order that pushed the Limpopo Department of Education to start getting rid of pit toilets more timeously, their deadline that they had set for themselves was March 2023. And still we are seeing that schools that have only plain pit toilets are still contending with those, and it's way over past their deadline. And we are also seeing that these schools also have unreliable water supply. So even though government has provided many of the schools in rural provinces with taps and hard infrastructure in terms of water, the schools are still having issues with having water supply throughout the day, which is illegal according to the norms and standards for school infrastructures.
Which, if I may, Kimberley, just in the interest of time, in 2011, you, as Equal Education, actually marched on Human Rights Day, lobbying parliaments, lobbying politicians. And one of the results from that march was actually that 2013 norms and standards that were put in place, making it really legal and putting it in the Constitution, all of these norms and standards which need to be there for each and every single school. Now that deadlines have been missed and deadlines have been pushed back, what type of repercussions can there be, for the Ministry of Education? What is it that you as Equal Education can do to actually hold the ministry to account and actually implement those norms and standards that were put in place as an equalization measure?
So as Equal Education, we have always advocated for, even though these deadlines have been met, for government to act more timelessly have to act more timelessly in meeting them. Our issue is not with necessarily the fact that there are deadlines in the norms that have been missed. It's that government now needs to play catch up with those deadlines. There's a 2023 deadline as well for schools to have libraries and laboratories, and 80% of schools still do not have laboratories according to some of the names 2021, and 70% still don't have laboratories. So it's very important for us for this government to meet these norms and standards. We've gone back to court with them in 2019. The Official High Court ruled that they need to amend the norms and there needs to be less loopholes in the law for them to give their responsibilities to other government entities. We're also advocating every single year on the norms and standards anniversary on the 29th of November. We have different actions to ensure that government does uphold their promises to learners, to ensure that they can access their basic right to education.
Thank you so much.
We have seen that
unfortunately, Kimberley, our time for this morning has run out, but I thank you so much for joining us and for updating us on the work that you as Equal Education are doing in ensuring that the school infrastructure is indeed upgraded and that there are equal opportunities for all children, irrespective of where they may be attending their schooling. That's Equal Education's researcher, Kimberley Khumalo. Standing